What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this, we have Why Muslims Love Aurangzeb. I hope I said that right. Before we jump into this video, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to smash that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and let's get straight to it.
Recently, when the movie Chhawa came out, it portrayed, accurately mind you, the treatment of Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj at the hands of Aurangzeb, arguably the most cruel Mughal ruler. However, immediately a not insignificant number of people jumped to Aurangzeb's defense. Apparently, according to them, this man is not a bigoted tyrant. Oh no, he's a misunderstood administrator, a crusader against corruption, and to the best of his ability, a secular ruler. Yes, apparently the same Aurangzeb who spent his entire life demolishing temples, beheading saints, and making Hindus pay a tax.
But he's misunderstood is crazy. It's wild. Man, I tell you, I can't believe people actually came to his side and defend.
Just for existing. His fans insist that he
Wow.
only destroyed temples for political reasons. He fought corruption. It's incredible that in India today there exist people that openly defend Aurangzeb. It's like Vivek Oberoi's children simping for Salman Khan or Salman Khan's family simping for Lawrence Bishnoi. Doesn't make any sense. So in this video, let's talk about why this phenomenon still exists in India. Why are there people, both Muslims and non-Muslims, who glorify evidently bigoted people like Aurangzeb, and why the dream of peace and tranquility between different religions in India cannot exist till sections of India's population continue to glorify bigots like these. So let's get to know this guy a little bit, right? Aurangzeb is the longest serving Mughal emperor who was born in 1618. His political career started when his father made him the viceroy of the Deccan. Although he had 6 surviving siblings and older brothers, Aurangzeb wanted to ascend the throne after the death of his father, which is why when his oldest brother Dara Shikoh was named heir apparent by Shah Jahan in 1657, Aurangzeb felt
चीटिंग करता है तू चीटिंग 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 करता है तू
I mean, from his point of view, he believed that the purpose of the Mughal Empire was to eliminate Hinduism. So how could Dara Shikoh make a good emperor while he spent his time on wasteful things like learning Sanskrit and translating the Upanishads into Persian? He plotted and formed an alliance with his younger brother Murad Baksh to defeat and imprison Dara Shikoh, who he soon had executed. When his purpose was solved, he also had his younger brother Murad executed. He also murders his youngest brother Shah Shuja, who
How you defend anybody just murdering a family like that, bro? Murdering your family, having them executed, and he got fans? Was his family they was all at war with each other? So if he hadn't executed them, they was gonna execute him, or that would be the only situation where I'd be like, okay, but that's crazy.
his family later died of starvation. He also imprisoned his own father and then drugged Suleiman, Dara's oldest son, turning him into a zombie and leading to his early death.
Suleiman Shikoh, Dara Shikoh's son, died by opium overdose. Murad, his own brother, died. He was hung. There was a trial on Murad. I think he was hung.
What
And
on
Muhammad
earth?
Muhammad Sultan, his own firstborn, Aurangzeb's firstborn son, died of depression at the age of 36.
Aurangzeb himself claimed that Islam and the Quran had the greatest impact on his life, and he sought to further the cause of Islam by banning alcohol, imposing the Sharia law, and building mosques across his kingdom. He wanted to convert India, which according to him was Darul Harb, or the land of Kafirs, into Darul Islam, or the land of Islam. So some people and some historians like to claim that Aurangzeb's actions were driven by political considerations. But according to Aurangzeb and Aurangzeb's contemporaries, they were deeply rooted in Islamic theology. His anti-Hindu policies weren't just the whims of politics. They were guided, according to him and his contemporaries, by Sharia-based governance models laid out in the Quran and the Hadith. So let's be clear. In the history of India, there have been very few rulers who have been as bigoted and destructive as Aurangzeb. His
Yeah.
reign from 1658 to 1707 was marked by deep religious intolerance, systematic destruction of Hindu temples, and policies that openly sought to suppress or destroy non-Islamic traditions. If at that age Aurangzeb had a LinkedIn, his LinkedIn rise and grind updates would be the most horrific shit known to man. The destruction of temples such as Kashi Vishwanath in Banaras and Krishna Janmabhoomi in Mathura stand as a stark reminder of his beliefs because he knew very well how important these temples were to the Hindus. His rule was shaped by a very rigid interpretation of Islamic law, say for example, reimposing the jizya tax on non-Muslims and enforcing restrictions on Hindu festivals and practices. He drew inspiration from passages within his own holy book, which say, "Fight those who do not believe in Allah or in the last day and who do not consider unlawful what Allah and his messengers have made unlawful and who do not adopt the religion of truth from those who were given the scripture. Fight until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled." His motto was never live and let live. It was more like live and tax or convert any non-Muslim trying to live. Contemporary Mughal records, such as the Masir-e-Alamgiri, document the systematic destruction of temples as an official state policy.
I legit just can't believe that he has fans in India. Like, I'm not understanding. Like, this man was a terrible ruler. This man was absolutely brutal, ruthless, and from what I'm hearing from him, he's burning down anything non-Islamic, any temples non-Islamic. He's trying. It's basically, if you meet this man, you convert to Islam or you die. That's kind of what it's at. Or you die if you support another major religion. He's gonna execute you. He don't care who you are. This man imprisoned his father. He killed his brothers. I don't know if he got a heart, man.
Acts of war, but deliberate attempts to erase the Hindu religious identity. Again, according to him and his contemporaries, this was influenced by the life of the Prophet. They claim that when the Prophet entered Mecca, there were 360 idols around the Kaaba. He started stabbing the idols with the stick he had in his hand and reciting the truth, or according to him, Islam has come and falsehood or disbelief has vanished. Even while Aurangzeb was the governor of the Deccan, he had pulled down several temples, including the important Chintamani temple of Ahmedabad, which he replaced with a mosque. In the first year of his reign as emperor, he issued orders to the governor of Odisha to demolish all temples in the province. In the 12th year of his rule, he ordered the demolition of all important and famous temples within his empire. In Mewar alone, he is said to have demolished 240 temples. In 1669, Aurangzeb ordered the demolition of one of Hinduism's holiest sites, the Kashi Vishwanath temple. Its destruction wasn't a spontaneous decision. The Masir-e-Alamgiri explicitly records Aurangzeb's command to replace it with the Gyanvapi mosque. And the funny part that really exposes today's so-called historians and their attempts to defend Aurangzeb is that the Mughal court records were never subtle about this stuff. They straight up said that the temple was destroyed because the Hindus were teaching their false books. A year later, he followed the same for the Mathura temple. The beautifully adorned murtis of the deities of the temple were thrown at the footsteps of mosques, simply because Aurangzeb knew that Muslims would walk over these statues when they went to pray inside the mosque. Again, if he was such a misunderstood administrator, why would he deliberately go out of his way to insult Hindus and their religions? Historians try to defend this, but accounts that are contemporaries of Aurangzeb clearly prove this to be bullshit. His own court documents, his own edicts, and his policies show a deeper motive, one of religious dominance. It's like making excuses for Aurangzeb is like making excuses for Hitler. Well, he didn't really hate the Jews, you know. He just wanted to make the Autobahns, and the Autobahns needed to go through the Jewish areas, so he needed to move the Jewish out of the way. Okay.
Nah, this man was awful, bro. How do you defend him? How do you say he's misunderstood? He's not. He was a ruthless dictator. He was Hitler. It's similarities between the two. He was trying to destroy anyone who was non-Islamic. He was trying to get rid of the Hindu religion in its entirety. And anyone who believed, it sounds like you converted or you were killed.
Okay, well, you could have moved them, not moved them into concentration camps and then gassed 6 million of them.
Exactly.
The only religious tolerance we had during Aurangzeb's time was that Hindus had to tolerate Aurangzeb bulldozing their sacred
That's crazy.
sites. That's why his policies included restrictions on Hindu festivals such as Diwali, Holi, and Navratri. These celebrations were declared un-Islamic and prohibited in many regions under Mughal control. For instance, Aurangzeb banned firecrackers, which are an integral part of Diwali celebrations, as early as 1667. Hindu processions were frequently attacked and temples were closely monitored. monitored. Public religious gatherings were heavily taxed or banned outright, further limiting the ability of Hindus to practice their faith openly and comfortably.
That's
This created
wild.
an environment where Hindu traditions were marginalized, Islamic practices were promoted as the norm, they were heavily incentivized, and thus there was this massive social, political, and economic pressure on Hindus to convert to Islam if they wanted to make their lives easier. By reinstating the jizya tax and systematically dismantling Hindu religious centers, Aurangzeb clearly sought to transform India into Darul Islam, a land governed by Islamic rule to suppress the infidel. His military campaigns against Hindu rulers, the Marathas, the Rajput, and the Sikhs, were not framed as mere political conquests. They were presented as jihad, a holy war to enforce Islamic rule in Darul Harb. The great Maratha king Chhatrapati Shivaji, who openly opposed Aurangzeb's religious policies, was labeled as an infidel or a kafir who had to be subdued for the glory of Islam. The Fatwa-e-Alamgiri, a comprehensive legal code compiled during his reign, served as a guide for implementing Islamic law across the empire, and it clearly shows his ideology. One of the most brutal chapters in Aurangzeb's history is the martyrdom of Guru Tegh Bahadur in 1675. Guru Tegh Bahadur earned the moniker of Hind Di Chadar, or the Shield of India, by standing up to one of the most tyrannical rulers in Indian history. Guru Tegh Bahadur had become the leader of the Sikhs around this time, and in 1675 a desperate group of Kashmiri Hindus arrived at the Guru's doorstep because Aurangzeb had given them an ultimatum: convert to Islam or die.
As the Brahmins told how
I literally just said that's exactly what it sounded like to me. Like that word for word. I just said that. That's his conditions. It sounded like you were either going to convert or you were going to die. And those were your only options. Like that. I definitely called it, but yeah, just listening to him speak, it was easy to kind of assume that, and now we know that that's exactly what he was doing.
how Hindus were being forcefully converted to Islam under the instruction of the tyrant emperor. They told Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji how mandirs across the country were being drenched in the blood of their sacred cows or completely demolished, with the rubble being used to construct mosques.
But Guru Tegh Bahadur looked at Aurangzeb's threat right in the eye and basically said, tell Aurangzeb that if he can convert me, all of the Kashmiri Hindus will convert as well. Otherwise, leave them alone. And so Aurangzeb obviously pulled the most insecure tyrant move in the book. He arrested everyone. And so Guru Tegh Bahadur and his companions were arrested and brought to Delhi in chains.
Keeping their word to the Brahmins, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji refused to convert and showed no fear as they entered the prison.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Aurangzeb gave
about.
Guru Tegh Bahadur the same two options that he gave the Kashmiri Hindus:
course he did.
convert or die.
The emperor offered the Sikhs three options: to accept Islam, to be set free by showing a miracle, or accept death.
Guru Tegh Bahadur promptly chose option 3, that is, becoming immortal in the hearts of 1.5 billion Indians. Initially, the Guru's companions were brutally tortured and executed right in front of him. His Hindu companions, Bhai Mati Das was sawn in half alive. Bhai Dayal Das was boiled alive in a cauldron. Bhai Sati Das was wrapped in cotton and set on fire. And finally, Aurangzeb beheaded Guru Tegh Bahadur in broad daylight in the middle of Chandni Chowk. And again, I ask you, if this was merely political,
That's disgusting. There's no way you misunderstand that. To torture somebody like in the ways that he killed these people, wrapping them in cotton and burning them to death, sawing somebody alive and sawing somebody in half while they were alive, freaking boiling somebody, and he was understood. He was Wow. That's disgusting.
why force Guru Tegh Bahadur and the Kashmiri Hindus to convert? Why torture and kill them in such a brutal manner if it's just political?
No.
Something's clearly not right. It's like your girlfriend telling you that her and her boss have a strictly professional relationship, but she keeps having children every year that look nothing like you and look a lot like her boss. Something's not right. But hey, the Guru may have lost his head, but after this heinous deed, Aurangzeb lost his empire just within a few short decades. So who really won? And another reason, funny to me, why Aurangzeb is celebrated is because Aurangzeb's policies directly led to the destruction of the Mughal Empire and the fall of Islamic rule in India. His policies caused large-scale revolts among the Jats, Sikhs, Marathas all across India. These rebellions drained the Mughal Empire's resources, weakened its control over provinces, and contributed to the fragmentation of the entire empire. Aurangzeb particularly hated the Marathas, and his entire strategy towards the latter end of his life became about destroying the Maratha Empire. He shifted most of his resources to the Deccan to quell the Maratha uprising, leaving most of North India unguarded. And this started many wars like the Deccan Wars.
Between 1680 and 1707, the Mughal and Maratha wars unfolded as two titans, the Marathas and the Mughal Empire, clashed for supremacy.
The Deccan Wars essentially turned the Mughal Empire into Pakistan, a broke-ass country with just religious bigotry to keep them going. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and the Marathas were the final nail in the coffin of the Islamic Empire in India. Historians argue that Aurangzeb was so single-mindedly focused on conquering the Deccan that he basically bankrupted himself like a simp fixated on impressing his favorite OnlyFans model. In 1681, Aurangzeb actually picked up his whole imperial court from Delhi and moved it to Aurangabad in the Deccan. Any territories that he annexed, he would lose that and more shortly thereafter. In pursuing these failed Deccan wars, Aurangzeb alienated much of the Mughal nobility whose sacrifices on behalf of the empire were no longer being sufficiently rewarded in their eyes. And Aurangzeb shifting all of his resources to the Deccan meant that he neglected the affairs of the north, allowing unrest to foment and state authority to diminish there. On top of that, the Marathas used smart guerrilla tactics to defeat Aurangzeb with much less resources. Chhatrapati Shivaji perfected light cavalry tactics that were all about speed and mobility. They used hit and run.
I love it. I love it. I love it. He deserved to be. He deserved to be knocked off the map. You feel he lived longer than he should have, to me. But shout out to Chhatrapati Shivaji. With these guerrilla tactics, he understood he didn't have the numbers on his side, so he's got to think outside the box and be strategic.
Run tactics on open plains, avoided direct confrontation, and excelled at severing Mughal supply lines. The Marathas lived off their own land. Their cavalry, their supplies, and their fortresses were all intricately tied to the local geography. Meanwhile, the Mughal forces were showing up with grand tent cities, fancy elephants, and huge baggage trains, and found themselves completely outmaneuvered by the Marathas. It was like Dr. Hathi from Tarak Mehta Ka Ulta Chashma trying to fight Bruce Lee. The Deccan Wars drained the treasury, stretched the military, and diverted attention away from the Sikh, Jat, and Rajput uprisings. So ultimately, Aurangzeb's burning religious bigotry stoked the fire of nationalism and freedom among different kingdoms of India, which prompted many simultaneous rebellions against Islamic rule. It was this bigotry that ultimately led to the freedom of India from Islamic rule shortly after Aurangzeb's death. His policies were responsible for hastening the decline of Islamic rule in India. So the question is, despite contributing to the collapse of Islamic rule in India, why is this man still worshipped by some Muslims and non-Muslims? This is because he is one of the fathers of the idea of Pakistan. He was a firm believer in the two-nation theory, something endorsed by prominent Muslims, which led to the partition of India. Aurangzeb's policies were influenced by his religious beliefs, the same religious beliefs that are taught to children in madrasas all across the Indian subcontinent. Aurangzeb's reign didn't just shape the Mughal Empire, it left a lasting impression on the broader Islamic world, influencing the ideology and policies of future Islamist rulers. His strict interpretation of Sharia, his subjugation of non-Muslims, and his role as a self-proclaimed Ghazi set a precedent that would be followed by various Islamist movements like the Wahhabi and Deobandi movements in later centuries. Both of these movements, which emerged in the 18th century, were reactions to perceived deviations from pure Islam, and they advocated for a return to the strict Sharia-based governance that Aurangzeb had championed. The Wahhabis, the Deobandis, and the Taliban all look up to Aurangzeb. The Deobandi movement, in fact, became a major ideological influence on the subcontinental Muslims and has a lot of influence within the Taliban. The blasphemy laws in Pakistan or Bangladesh aren't new. They're just Aurangzeb's greatest hits, remastered for the 21st century. And here's the thing. It's not about Aurangzeb the man.
But he has Indian fans? Like, fans of India? Like, these tribes had to all the revolt almost at similar times due to Aurangzeb, due to his religious persecution. That's exactly what it was. But so how does he have fans in India? Somebody talk to. I'm misunderstanding how he has fans at all.
It's about the ideology that shaped him. The ideology still defended by many people in India, and those that see these people as perpetual victims and do not wish to offend them come what may. But the issue is that in the age of social media and with the new age of Indian movies, the truth is coming out, and it will continue to come out as long as these movies are successful, which they are. Sunlight is the greatest disinfectant, and the carefully curated image of Aurangzeb is
truth
crumbling
always
before
comes to
our
the
own
light.
eyes. If we start altering history to fit narratives, it will not take us anywhere. Knowing what really happened is important for society to learn and
100%.
grow. If something happened, it should be discussed openly. However, many Muslim communities in India
Sure.
and many so-called liberal people refuse to accept these historical facts.
course
In
they do.
Pakistan, he is
Of course.
celebrated as a hero who
course he
expanded
is.
the Islamic Empire and purified religious practices. His reign is seen as a golden age of Islamic rule. In India, when Aurangabad was renamed to Sambhajinagar to honor the Maratha warrior king who was executed on Aurangzeb's orders, a lot of people were upset, including
they
major
were.
political parties. But why? Why defend such a man if Hindus must distance themselves from Savarkar because of a couple of controversial opinions that Veer Savarkar had? But Muslims needn't distance themselves from Aurangzeb despite first-hand accounts of his actual mass-scale crimes and
That's
bigotry.
crazy.
Well, then why are you surprised that Hindutva is so successful across India today? An actual patriot is attacked as a bigot and a genocidal maniac is portrayed as a misunderstood administrator. What the hell kind of timeline are we living in? Look, the
everything.
truth is now out. More and more people are learning it and will continue to learn it. The only way that the gap between the Hindu and Muslim communities in India can be filled is by acknowledging the wrongs of the past. If Hindus can acknowledge the wrongs done to the Dalits and other communities and provide reservations and more political representation to these groups as part of the Truth and Reconciliation initiative within Hinduism, then why shouldn't we expect the same from the Muslim community?
Agreed.
This gap, remember, will never
Agreed.
get filled if we have different standards and different expectations for different communities. The best approach is
Agreed.
simple. Read history as it was, accept the truth, learn from it, and reconcile with it, so society can move forward and ensure that the past mistakes are never repeated. But I want to ask you, why do you think that there's a certain section of Indian society that continues to venerate or support Aurangzeb?
No
What is the
idea.
reason behind it? And how can we fill the distrust between the Hindu and Muslim communities on issues like this? Let me know your thoughts and comments in the comment sections down below. Other than that, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, like, share, and subscribe. I will see you for the next episode. And until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and I will see you for the next one. And to all of you, a secular pranam.
I can't believe I'm just in complete shock. I don't know what to say. Y'all talk to me in the comment section. How is this even possible? How does he have fans? How do people think he was misunderstood? Of course Muslims are gonna praise him. Of course they are. But any Hindus in India who say he's misunderstood and would praise him is crazy. But y'all talk to me in the comment section. I want to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed, please don't forget to subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up. Check out the next. I'll see y'all.